In this video, we are going to go over some challenging problems dealing with slope. Let's check it out. So we are given the line that goes through the points 5, -2 and x, 4. Has a slope of -6. Find the value of x. So this kind of problem is sometimes given in an Algebra 1 class, sometimes in the beginning of an Algebra 2 class as well, and it's a little more challenging. But here's the main idea. You want to start out with understanding what the main concept is that we're being asked about. Use that concept and then go from there. So it's not about saying, what do I do to solve this problem? It's about asking, what can I do with the main concept? Let's jump into it. So we're told that it has a slope of -6 and we have 2 points. Well, we know the slope formula. We learned that previously. The slope formula is m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's our basic foundation here. And we're told that the slope is -6. And it's the slope that, well, contains those 2 points, right? If a line has those 2 points, then the slope connecting those 2 points will be -6. So let's plug everything into our formula. So we have -6 is equal to, let's just make y2 equal to, it doesn't really matter, let's make y2 equal to 4. All right, just randomly. So we'd have y2 is 4, minus y1 then would be -2. All over, that would make x2 x minus 5 x1. Right there. And that's it. So what we just did is we took a relatively interesting, I'd even say pretty challenging word problem, started out with the main concept and just asked, well, what could I do with the values based on what I know about slope? And the answer is I can plug them into their proper positions in the slope formula. Now all we have is an algebra formula, well, equation to solve out. So I'm going to simplify this down a little bit. I'll put a little arrow here. And so 4 minus a -2 is 6. So we're going to get -6 from the left-hand side of the equation is equal to 6 over x minus 5. Nice. All we have left to do is a little bit of cross multiplication. If it makes you comfortable, we can put this over 1 and we will cross multiply. Very, very cool. So -6 times x minus 5 is going to be -6 times x minus 5, remember it's times the entirety of that denominator, is equal to 6 times 1, which is just 6. Awesome. We'll distribute and solve like a normal equation and we'll have our answer. The thing to point out though is once we got here, we were done with the new stuff. So -6 times x, -6 times -5, so we have -6x. -6 times a -5 is plus 30, is equal to 6. And we subtract 30 from both sides. I'm not going to show that work done out because now as we start to get a little bit more advanced in our math skills, we should be able to do that, I think, with, well, a little bit of better mental math. So subtract 30 from both sides. 6 minus 30 is -24. And then we're going to divide both sides by -6. So if I divide by -6 on both sides, -24 divided by -6 is positive 4. And that's our value. X is equal to 4. How do you check your answer? If you plug 4 into this, you'll get a slope out of -6. Sweet! All right, one more problem along these lines, and then we'll call it a video. The line that goes through 3, 2, and x, 7 has an undefined slope. Ooh. Find the value of x. Now this is kind of interesting. If you have an undefined slope, that means you have a vertical line, right? So let's set up our formula like we talked about here, but it's kind of interesting how we're going to interpret this. So I've got y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, like so. And now looking at this, if we plug in our values, and we can do that, we're going to get y2 minus y1. Let's just do 7 minus 2. And then we're going to get x minus 3. So we're just plugging in our values. Now let's pause and think about this. In the other problem, we knew that the slope was -6. But now we're saying that this is equal to an undefined slope. I'll just say UND. Well, if it's undefined, that means that we're dividing by 0. So we basically want x minus 3, that denominator, to equal 0. And if we add 3 to both sides, you'll get that x must equal 3. It's a tougher problem, I think, than the first one because we don't have a set number that we're solving for and can use specific algebra for. Another way of looking at it is if you know you have an undefined slope, then you have a vertical line, right? So if we have a vertical line and you already have the point, let's say 3, 2 on it, right here, well, then the only value that this can take on, since it's a vertical line, would be 3. Right? Because the x values wouldn't change on a vertical line since we're only moving up and down, not left and right. So a different way of approaching that problem. So psyched on these challenging problems. In a later video, we'll check out other challenging problems, I'm sure. But for now, this is what you got with slopes.